En løve lå forsteinet ved havet i 27 somre. De slo han med trolldom under jakt. En slange lå på vakt. En dag falt løvens lenke i havet. Da løftet løven kloa mot slangen. Hans søvn var tung og lang. Hans felle dyp og trang. Slangen freser, løven lover fred. Fienden flykter, kloa synker ned. Med den skal han pløye sitt land til det blir mor. Og unger kan leke på hennes røde jord. Nå svulmer hennes åkre. Hun føder. Hun åpner glemte kilder og ammer. Her kjenner hun seg trygg. Bak løvens brede rygg. Det gløder dypt i berget av gullet. Det gror av fjell og ørken. Det bunger av mat i 1000 år. Tålmodig alle får. Løven danser med slanger og med land. Nå som den gang arken nådde fram. En regnbue pryder Guds himmel høy og blå. Og under kan landet forsørge sine små.
Hello guys, this is DJ Bafana here. Today is the 30th of December, 11:20 p.m. Right? Oh, okay. So, where we are now, remember on the first two episodes of this podcast, the first one I focused on the periods before 98, right? And then on the second one I started from 98 till 2005. So where we are now, we will be starting from more or less around 2006 till 2012. Yes, 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 yes. Some interesting stuff to look out for there. This is where I say it starts to get juicy, eh? It does, it does. Okay, so let's get on to the nitty-gritties. So on this, just as a reminder or a disclaimer, the views expressed on this podcast are mine and mine alone, right? And then the direction that I'm taking with this podcast is such that I restore my mother's memory, right? Not what is being said out there now, and also try to turn around my life as well, because this is a therapeutic process for me to sort of try and find some closure on a lot of things that were mysteries around my life, my mother's passing, and a lot of tragedies that have happened and misfortunes as well. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna start like so. I'm gonna start discussing my two older sisters' sort of relations with my mother pre 2006, or when my mother was still alive, right? So, my two sisters, one Mamosa, the other one Jabulile. So, we, as in siblings and families, we pick up nicknames and we call ourselves by that. So, Mamosa goes by Bila. She uses or we call her Bila. And then Jablile is Mbosi, right? Okay, they stayed at my mother's birthplace in Val called Bupilong, predominantly Sotho and Xhosa speaking area. So now, my mother was this side with us in Soweto and they were in Val. So we thought that my mother was supporting them somehow, right? Because they weren't working by then, they were not employed. It then slowly started emerging that apparently they had complaints and their mother wasn't supporting enough, mother-daughter squabbles here and there. And the one thing I will assure you though is the love was there. The bond was there. However, in life, people need to, or they tend to focus on stuff like that: money, are you supporting me, and blah blah, and that becomes the root cause of something bigger that later sort of happens, right? So yeah, it then developed that they started complaining about my mother and all of that. Well, my mother, according to my mother, she was trying the best that she could. She was trying here and there, according to my knowledge, right? However, I don't want to now come out as if I knew everything exactly, because I'm speaking as in the third person. Okay. Um, so yeah, that was it. My sister Mbosi managed to get into Varsity Vista, and then my other sister Mamosa, she was also starting to get jobs here and there, and she by this time she had a son, and yeah, so she had started a family already, and that's how things were progressing. So gradually, they did, you know, progress in life, which is makes me very happy and good to take note of. Right. So let's then pass on to 2006. 2006. I progressed to my second year at varsity, completed my call center certificate. I started mentoring and offering DJ lessons to aspirant DJs at Milky Way DJ Spin Out in Rosebank, which was a CSI initiative by PCB Technologies. Some of the DJs I mentored, which you might happen to know of, Lady Sake, DJ Waimi, and DJ Lerato. I had a fling with a certain special lady whom we've recently rekindled the fire. You know, it happened last year. I'll get on to that when I discuss the latest stuff. And then I registered my first company together with a late friend. Okay, and then 2007, my mother. Whenever I say Snow, just know that's my mother. That was her nickname. Sisno had aspirations of becoming a librarian, and as such, after her ABET studies at night school, she started applying for various tertiary institutions for a relevant course. Sisno played a significant role during this time in our family. She was, you know, the glue that held us together. You know, there's always siblings rivalry, and on the other side, my dad or my father being the way he is, and a lot of things were happening. You know, as kids, we go through some stuff, so you can imagine there's five of us, and she needs to also have a life of her own. So she was there. Don't wanna lie. So she was our pillar. Let me. I'll be a bit brief on the others, but then try and give an insight on my relationship with her during this time. She was, you know, basically an all rounder because she did most of the stuff in our lives. And as far as me and her, we were getting on nicely. We were. In fact, we were cool. So we were very close. I don't want to lie. Don't want to lie. And it then started to occur to me that there is a sudden change in my mother's behavior and character. I started noticing a lot of things. She was now starting to hang out with the wrong crowds. She was starting to, you know, she wasn't a heavy drinker. She now started drinking alcohol she wasn't even drinking and or used to, and oh, you know, she lost that touch of being a positive role model for me, and I felt distant to her from that point onwards. But I couldn't understand where this is coming from, and but I could take note that something is happening, but I couldn't figure it out initially. I had to observe continuously though. And then our neighbors. Well, my mother was, because she likes people, she had friendly relations with a few neighbors. She was even part of a society that she would attend with them, and she would come back and complain about the treasurer there. Rebecca Mongale, who happened to, you know, when you hook up uh, a friend with another friend of yours. So this lady, Rebecca, she hooked up her sister with my dad, and she is friends with my dad, right? My mother didn't like Rebecca that much because she was treating my mother very badly. She was just plain nasty to my mother, according to what my mother would tell me. Every time she came back from the society meeting, she would just, just tell it like it is, what this woman was doing to her and so on. And my mother was, she would surprise me. You would do all sorts of bad things to her, and then she'd be so polite and calm about it. That was like amazing of her. Eh? Yeah, but I guess I've taken on those genes from her. Okay, so basically, most of the people that she attended, she was in the society with, were very, very um, mean and nasty to her. And I would later come to learn of this because I also had to witness this from these people. But more on that later. Okay. All right. And then I took on some third year modules at varsity while still repeating some second year modules. I played or DJ'd at my first ever UJ Soweto Freshers Bash. I started doing features articles for the UJ Observer, a UJ student monthly newspaper. I started working with Soul Candy Records, doing content features and events. So basically, what I was doing for UJ Observer is I would take the latest maybe album from one of the Soul Candy artists and do a review of it, listen to it, and then try and think about how I feel about it and just sum it up on paper to say this was good. I feel the direction was like so and so, and this was well executed, the mixing and what type of people would enjoy this, what type of sound is it, and so on. So that's basically what I was doing there. And I was a features journalist, by the way. And yeah, I created that link between Soul Candy and UJ Observer. Um, and I registered my second company together with a former friend, a varsity friend, by the way, and I co-established the UJ Soweto Reg Committee. That's a Remember and Give, which is a student society focusing on charitable initiatives, which then assist needy students or other organizations, maybe within their area of focus or jurisdiction. And then join the UJ Soweto Peer Buddies, which is also a group that assists learners in terms of maybe challenges that they may face, like peer pressure, emotional sort of challenges, whatever challenges they had. So they would come to us and discuss, and we try and assist them. We were more like, the student shrinks, psychologists. We were that. We were that. All right. So now my father, Smile. At this point, he had totally left our place of residence and was no longer staying with us full time. During this year, I was in university. He was still paying for the tuition fees, anything that had to do with my academics, he paid for. And yes, here and there, groceries, but yeah, that's more or less what he did, or his involvement or contribution or role within the family. And occasionally would pitch up at the house, right? Okay, so 2008, 2008, my mother then continued with her aspirations for being a librarian, as she was an assistant librarian. She wanted to study a relevant course, right? However, that then later subsided, right? Due to, well, she started hanging around negative crowds. Like, she had newfound friends who were a bad influence. Their influence on her was misplaced, intentionally so. They misled her for some reason that I suspect is also linked to my father, right? So he had this plan to ensure that my mother hangs around such bad people, which would then justify her foul character. He wanted to attack her character first, make sure she is no longer the darling she was in the community, the lady she was, and now be seen as this girl who is always with a friend and takes her friend's advice above everyone else and does exactly what she's told. When it comes to her friend or friends, she drops everything. They go around the township behaving like small girls, and they are just rebels doing as they please, no care for their families and how they would feel. Um, basically, make her appear to be losing it. And she did. She did. She did. Honestly, a lot of people were influencing my mother badly. There was a Tsonga lady by the name of Kensani Bekwa. She is a neighbor. There was another one. So there were a few, but one person I can guarantee who was always with my mother. Like, my mother was hooked on this person. Was Kensani. Kensani Bekwa. Bekwa. Yes, Kensani Bekwa. She was a very bad influence on my mother. And she didn't like me. She didn't like me. Her and her family, they never liked me. Because I used to be on my mother's side and tell them the truth. They would convince my mother that she would tell my mother that I was behaving childishly, and convince her of all sorts of things. Turn my mother against me, basically. And yeah, that was disturbing to take note of. To say she's a parent as well. She's still alive. She's a parent as well. However, she is convincing my mother or turning my mother against me. And she would scream on the street, "Your child is so childish. Your son is like this, is like that." Yo, yeah, ne? I've seen things out here. So she was the one who was leading her astray. Basically, she was used as a pawn in my father's game, such that she was a pawn or more of a smoke screen, such that we wouldn't see where the real culprit is or who it is even, or where all of this is coming from. Okay. She hooked up my mother with some guy called Ngobeni, who then became my mother's boyfriend. I think he was staying in Shawela and so on. So he was a serious criminal committing crimes, serious crimes. And my mother's mental capacity was seriously deteriorating, guys. It was. My mother's mental capacity was deteriorating. The way she was so into this Tsonga lady, friend of hers. Yo, I know. I've never seen anything like that. She was so dedicated and focused, to say the least, even. To a point where she would enlist that lady as her next of kin. Imagine. On credit applications. Psh, I was so surprised. I just found out about this. Imagine. And I have such documents with me. She behaved very strangely, my mother. She behaved very, very strangely. She would be with people I never thought she would hang around. She had a certain dignity about her, a certain class. you know. Um, she was she didn't like drinking. My mother never liked drink. If she had an alcoholic drink or beverage, she would just take one or two and then that's it. That's it. But during this period, yo, I know she started drinking and hanging out a lot. She would hang around, she'd bees. Oh, this was totally unlike my mother. She was a girl, a teenager. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. She would hang around some guys who were always in unemployed guys with no direction, who were always around the township. I asked myself, but what is my mother doing with these people? Oh, yeah, ne? And yeah, well, I'm still a child. Because I was her child, I know right to meddle in that part of her life. She is, well, at this point, she started slipping away from us as well. Yeah. And then, well, my mother's side of the family. Yo, guys. Around this time, 2008, they were distant from us. I won't lie. That occasional sort of call or whatnot, but they were very distant from us. Well, we all have different lives, and yeah, I guess that's the way we were all adults. Nothing was untoward at this point in time. However, I can point out that my aunt, who happens to be the firstborn in my mother's family, yeah, my mother is the second born, so she comes before my mother as the firstborn. She used to tell us a lot of things. Her name is Baba. Yes, Baba Mukobi. Guys. Oh, when someone has a chronic or has serious feelings of hatred towards your parent, she would tell us a whole lot of things we wouldn't understand. But the only thing we understood is the fact that she hated my mother. She would say it straight, outright into our faces. Don't like your mother, she did this, she did that to me. She would then say a whole lot of things I didn't even understand. But I understood, I knew very well. The main point, she doesn't like my mother. I don't know what happened between her and my mother, because what I know is my parents met through her. She knew my father before my mother before my parents got to know each other, by the way. However, I mean, from just thinking about it, I'm just thinking my aunt had the hearts for my dad or my father. And it happened that my father then, liked my mother and they hit it off. She then uh, felt like my mother backstabbed her. She took away uh, uh, um, her potential boyfriend. Or maybe they had a thing with my father and then my father ditched her and came to my mother. I don't know. I don't even want to involve myself there. But yeah, something's fishy there. And then, all right, 2008. Okay? I progressed to third year varsity. Okay, our neighbors' roles or role, relations with our neighbors rather. Yeah, you guys, sure, yo. You know, at this point in 2008, it was still okay. It was still, trust me, it was still good. We were still going um, like normal neighbors. Hey, Mikey, those that we had relations with. And yeah, hey, you know, that occasionally, hello, whenever we meet. So, yeah, there's nothing to write home about there. And then I progressed to third year varsity, organized and played or DJ'd at my second UJ Soweto Freshers Bash. Started working at the UJ Soweto PsychEd, so it's the Psychological Services and Career Development Center for students. So I used to be a student assistant at this facility. Um, I would stand in for my boss when she wasn't available at her office and look after the facility. I joined a UJ Soweto Student Society focusing on business and was nominated and elected as its projects officer. Organized events at a few venues such as Capello Clipdown and Jabulani Mall. By the way, these venues are no longer in existence. Completed my BCom degree. My father's role here was still the same. No longer with us. Occasionally would pitch up, paying tuition for me. Yes, at varsity. And my younger sister Nikiwe was very close with my mother, so they would, yeah, no, they were inseparable. They did a lot of things together. They basically were buddies. They were buddies. So my younger sister knew and she witnessed as my mother's um, life deteriorated. And as she started adopting these untoward characteristics or attributes, she was there. She was my mother's buddy. So yeah, there's something fishy there. They did some stuff. The influence they had on each other was like, yo, yeah, ne. Okay, so uh, we progressed to 2009. 2009, my mother's life started to deteriorate rapidly here. She was like on a point of no return at this point. 2009, she was hectic. She like never wanted to hear anything from anyone. She did as she pleased. She wasn't. She was no longer buying groceries. She would, now and then just hustle for us, see her bringing a plastic of maybe, let's say, veggies and come and cook right then and there, and then she leaves again. So she was no longer staying with us. She was staying at a nearby shack with a former boyfriend, another one. So that's a different boyfriend, not the one she was hooked up with by Kensani. We'll come to that one. Okay. And then her friends were increasingly exerting their influence on her, or negative and destructive influence on her. She slipped away from us even further. And they were doing nasty things. They were doing, you know, when those uncontrollable girls who do as they please, like they just don't give a fuck. They don't give a 2 cents worth. Who says what? I'm telling you, they were like that. 1 hour 20. Oh, okay. And mm, my mother's or my aunts, they were nowhere to be seen. I mean, my mother even started uh, selling her body. And when I sent one of my sisters, one of my aunts, Rosina, a an SMS informing her that my mother is now turning our house into a brothel, she never responded. She never even responded. And she was the person I used to contact whenever I had problems. And she would be there and assist. But this time around, nothing, which was very strange, right? Okay. Um, Now, on to my mother's um, new boyfriend. He is known as Ngobeni. Was he used to stay in Shawela. Um, he's a criminal, outright criminal. Committed serious crimes, guys. Kill people. Yeah, no. Serious stuff, I'm telling you. Like, I don't want to lie about this. I do not want to lie about this. When I get to my mother's time of passing, you will understand what I mean. But he was a criminal. I don't want to say gangster, a criminal. He committed serious crimes. Serious crimes. No jokes here. No jokes. So for me, Kensani hooking up my mother with this guy, what was her intentions? Because I mean, let's not focus on Kensani's love life, but knowing very well that my mother is a married woman with a family, how then do you hook her up with one of your buddies? Huh? Very strange, eh? And someone who has these characteristics or is this type of character, a criminal, does very serious crimes. Take note of one of the crimes I enlisted, made an example about, that he killed people. He killed people. Huh? Okay, let's carry on. Okay. So my mother's behavior and mental capacity, guys, it was now slipping, dropping at a very alarming rate. Very alarming. Yo, you know when this guy was now in her life, now with Kensani as well. Yo. I saw flames, Shane. I saw things I never thought my mother would do. Guys, yo, huh? I witnessed with my own 2 eyes. Hey, yo, huh? My mother was behaving like, an adolescent who just fell in love for the first time. That one who doesn't even care that she's hanging around a gangster. No matter how you try and talk her out of it, she would never hear you. telling you, she would never hear you. Right? And then I graduated for my degree, and I uh, I got a job, temp job, at the National Youth Development Agency in Pretoria, as a career guidance counselor, and we obviously gave direction and advice on careers and so on. However, my highlight was the Start Here campaign, which is what they hired me for. Which, because the first 2 weeks they hired me, they tasked me with motivating and providing guidance to learners at a central location, which was their office, from their offices. And then with the Start Here campaign, it was it was not within the office, so we had to travel to Hammanskraal. So we adopted the Tshwane North College, and then had entertainers there and other esteemed guests who provided guidance and motivated the kids. So initially, because it was two of us, career guidance counselors, it was myself and David. David was given Soweto to organize the one in Soweto. I was given Pretoria. Imagine, I stay in Soweto, ne? And it was happening in UJ Soweto. UJ Soweto is right next to my house. My former varsity as well. Imagine, but they don't deploy there. Yo, I felt like, these people. My boss. Yo, I love her though. I love her. I love my boss, my former boss. Okay, and so I was responsible for the entire project from start to finish. Planning it, organizing it, implementing it, and then David's one in Soweto happened first, so I went and checked it out. They did send me there to say, what, go check it out, so that you can have more or less an idea of what you can do in Hammanskraal, or what to do in Hammanskraal. I went, I checked it out, hooked up with some former varsity friends and staff at the varsity and so on. It was good. And then I came over to, they had some YFM DJs then, because YFM was banging back then, and it was fun. It was just okay, average. So after that, I started working on mine. I wanted to do something more than what I saw in Soweto. Give it my feel and ensure that it stands out. So what I did was, over and above having different speakers and having a performance from the biggest entertainers, some of the biggest entertainers in the country, and giving advice, and then maybe give them some few goodies here and there, as in the students. I just thought, you know what, because we worked with nearby schools, we requested them to give us a few students, matriculants, so that we can advise them. They did that. They organized the buses, visited all the schools, and we had agreements, went and pushed at a local radio station, got a local newspaper to cover the event. So my killer point here, or part, was rather I got different companies to join us and be a part of this organizations. So I got Standard Bank in Pretoria, I got Mercita, I got TLT Auto, I got SEDA, Small Enterprise Development Agency from Pretoria. And then obviously it was us, we were still UYF, Umsobomvu Youth Fund. So we also had a table there displaying, and we took turns. When the event happened, the service provider was Mauta. Yes, the DJ. He came, we organized it with them. So I was basically playing my role within UYF, putting everything together, and where there were costs, he would then be responsible for making the payments and so on. However, everything was done. You know, the work itself was done. And I was responsible for working hand in hand with them to check if this and that is done, the venues are confirmed, all of those things, the schools are coming. Basically, the event is happening. Sharp, everything was confirmed. On the day of the event, we went there to Amaskral Hall. We got there, set up. The hall caretaker welcomed us. The kids arrived. The goodies. DJ Mauta played a DJ set. Stone from Bongo Muffin was the MC. Spikiri from Kalawa Jasmine and Gyros performed. I gave, motivated the kids. Different speakers from Mercita, Standard Bank, UYF. In fact, I was representing UYF on stage. SEDA, TLT Auto, Mercita, they also gave guidance or advice, and also promoted their products, which might be relevant to the students. And it was a success. Yeah, it was big. I don't know, like guys. Even the service providers, Mauta was very happy. He was impressed. He even pointed out that, you know, this is the best one out of the national campaign, because it had different companies there. The other ones were just plain. So I felt so proud. Felt really proud. That went up to head office of UYF, which then was in the process of becoming NYDA, because there were two organizations that merged. It was UYF and another one, right? So there were sister organizations and they became one. Okay, that then passed. At this point in time, after being in NYDA, I had a slump, had no job, had to start applying. I got a call center job, sales, well, basically it was a commission-based job, sales, selling cell phone airtime packages and funeral covers at Joe Black Outsourcing. And then 2009, then I got an internship at Edcon's regional credit office here at Selby, customer service agent. And then my father, he was still my father's role within the family was too distant now. I was too distant. Yo, he was basically non-existent to us. Obviously, the support here and there, but as I started working, trust me, I was no longer there because he was no longer paying for tuition. I completed varsity, so trust me, I was no longer present. And then, yeah, I did talk about my mother's bond with my little sister Nigiwe, right? Okay, guys. So now we move on to 2010. So 2010, very interesting year, eh? Yo, okay. Let's get on with it. Okay, 2010, my mother's behavior and mental capacity, I like yo. It was at its worst now. She was hectic and she didn't see anything wrong with it. You know when this witchcraft works on you guys, trust me, you will never notice it or be aware of it, and you will never even agree if someone tells you afterwards, and you get agitated very quickly, especially if someone tries to be the voice of reason and tells you, hey, this. Yeah, no, you snap very quickly. Okay, and then her friends were very hard now. They were hard. Oh, this one Kensani. Oh, she was hectic. Trust me. Her kids would come, grandkids would come there, not even knock on the door because they knew I was always there. So they would find me and they didn't like me. So they went around and went and knocked at bedroom window. She would come out jumping. Imagine watching your mother now behaving like a zombie. Hey guys, oh, it was very disappointing and hurting. My mother was a zombie, guys. You know, when you are so possessed by evil, an evil spell, guys, yo. This kid would just come there, knock and tell my mother, hey, my grandmother is asking for you. My mother would jump quick. My mother would jump. She was always with Kensani. If Kensani wasn't around, my mother would be bored. She would be sitting there bored. Yo, I never saw anything like this. Yeah, or witnessed it anywhere else. Okay? Alright? Alright. And they were mocking us, by the way. Her friends. My mother's friends used to mock us because obviously they have control of my mother, right? So they knew, what can you tell us? We are your mother's friends and your mother listens to us. So who do you think you are? Oh, yeah. And then now coming to Cisno's funeral. Okay, so guys, on the 17th of June, things are so bad now. Yo, my mother was, she was no longer staying with us and stuff. Now you know that there's Ngobeni, this side was very dangerous, a criminal. And now my mother wasn't with Ngobeni. He met another guy and moved into a shack with him. Hey! On the 17th, and my father knew all of this. My father knew where my mother lived. My father was, the architect of all this. You know? Although he wanted to make us believe in here, as in reality, he was wherever he was. However, he was the one pulling the strings, or he was involved, heavily so even, you know? And then on the 17th of June, a police officer came by my house and asked for my family's contacts to say, can I give him my father's contacts? Can I give him contacts for elders? So I gave him my aunt's contact and also my father. All right, left his car, and it's someone I know, Mandla, from the Kliptown police station, by the way. I went to inside the house. Okay, a few minutes later, my aunt calls me, Rosina, and says, you know what, we are coming there now. So don't go to sleep. I was surprised of this. Then told my younger brother, Sihle, to say, okay, she just called and yeah, well, they're saying they are coming. But my suspicions were heavy. And those suspicions were, my mother is dead. My mother is dead. My mother is dead. Hey, guys. When my aunt came, my suspicions were confirmed. I was on the money. She just said, umamako, ushonile, sisino ushonile. Yeah! Guys, I broke down. I cried. But it wasn't a heavy sort of like weeping. But I did cry. Don't wanna lie. My younger brother cried as well. Yeah, it was touching. I'm hearing him saying some stuff there. Yo, he was also close with my mother. Yo, guys. Yo, we cried. I don't wanna lie. Okay? And hear this out. Remember Rebecca, the one I told you about, who was treasurer at my mother's society. Yeah, ne? She was the first. Remember, she is friends with my father, right? And she hooked up my father with her sister. She was the first neighbor to come and offer her condolences. This gets interesting. She came in rushing. Imagine she knocked like 1, 2. You would expect, out of respect, and you would have respect and humility as well, to show due consideration for how we are feeling at this time. Hey guys, yo. This woman never even, cared to even wait for anyone to open the door. She just opened the door herself, jumped in, never even greeted me. Imagine. my own parents' place. She just came in rushing, came into the house. How did she know there were people inside there by the dining room? Huh? How? So you just disrespect us like that? You come in and jump into the dining room. Here? Wow. Okay. She gets into the dining room. Hey guys. Hey. You know when someone is so happy that your mother is dead. You're the things she was saying. Yo, guys. She was like revealing that she hated my mother. She was revealing that she might very well have known about my mother's, the plot to kill my mother, you know? Or she was even a part of it. By the way, that wouldn't be too far-fetched. In fact, yeah, it's sounding more like the truth. That one, trust me. Okay, she said a lot of things that my mother behaved like this and like that, so she more or less deserved what came to her. Imagine her hate just came out just like that. Later on, she then, came to a bit of her senses and became considerate. But yeah, no, huh? And then other neighbors started pouring in. They were respectful and so on. Others, I think they were just putting on a show. They knew already. Like her, Rebecca, when she came in, she was just putting on a show. But trust me, she said what she intended to tell us or make us aware of, which is she didn't like my mother. That point was received, not very well, but it was received, right? And when it comes to my mother's funeral arrangements, yeah, guys, my father secured what they call a letter of attorney, a power of attorney rather, because they were married COP, Kamina Kawena, and he was legally the only person who can or who could get such powers or a document. Well, he did that, doing this with my cousin, Boise. Shady character, that one. Who they went and cleaned all of my mother's policies and bank accounts, whatever my mother had, they cleaned. I went and checked, Moss. I went. After him, I went. I was on their footsteps. Everywhere they said, no, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. I was like, yeah, go. But one funny thing is, during, well, when we were busy trying to figure out how to prepare for my mother's funeral. Hey guys, my mother passed on, I think it was during the week, right? Now, the week, and I think it was, yes, closer to the weekend, so we just confirmed that we had an agreement to say, let us have the funeral next weekend. Okay, sharp. So before all of that was released, the dates and whatever, my father, without consulting, everyone came to him and gave him money. The society, now Rebecca was the treasurer, she gave him the money, right? Okay. And then my father started coming up with this nonsense of my mother didn't have any policies. She didn't provide for her a funeral if it came. So we were like dumbfounded to say, and now what's this? And I told my family that no, this is rubbish. I know. I went to all of these places. He took the money. He cashed in. So they were all of them were saying he is so despicable. He is, you know, so evil. But they were not doing anything. They were so cool and collected about it, you know. But I was like, ha ha. Yeah. Ha. No man. Something is fishy. And then one of the family members talked to him and he was calm. But you know, in his house, his word goes. He was very, very um, determined to do what he set out to do. So he wanted my mother to be buried 2 weeks later. And then one neighbor came to our house, Fanny Sikwan. He came to our house and was like, hey, le nna ke tla thusa ke ntshe 1,000 ranta. I was like, what? Ah! So we've got these people making fun of my mother's memory so that they can take credit that now they paid for my mother's funeral. I was like, never, not gonna happen. I had a friend who worked at Capitec in Maponya Mall. Spoke with him. He said, you know what? I will help you. Bring your sister. Tell her to come directly to me. I did just that. And then my sister got a loan. Aye, Nandi. Through that loan, we made sure we put pressure that my mother must be buried immediately. The week after her passing, we made sure. Trust me, I pressed. I was so disrespectful. I made sure my father felt it. I was fighting for my mother there. My mother's spirit. Trust me. There's nothing I would have never done. No, well, I wouldn't go to extremes, but I ensured that my mother is buried in a dignified manner, you know, and peace and calm was restored, and order was restored afterwards. Proceedings went well, but you know, the neighbors, they had to, obviously we had to prepare, and people were coming in every day. Still all of these games were being played. Mokari, this, hey. Yeah, ne? And then imagine we are hurting and they're busy playing games and talking nonsense. But yeah, it's fine. Now it's getting closer to the funeral. Day before the funeral, hey guys, now during this time, it was during the World Cup, so I was working during that time, and I had to go to work because I worked at this World Cup, so I had to go to stadiums, blah blah blah, and then come back, do my thing within the house to help out, and then hey, these neighbors, you know, they came and assisted, you know, when they doing their peeling and setting up a tent, slaughtering that cow, blah blah blah. Hey, imagine they would call me. Some guy I didn't even know would just point me with his finger and say, you come here. Hey, wena wozala. Ngiyakubiza. Hey, yeah. Hey, people enjoyed it. And these other ones were laughing, the ladies, when they were busy working there. And I was like, yo, yeah, ne? But I didn't understand at the time what was happening. But I could see that, no, man, something is going on. That's suspicious. Okay, come to the day of the funeral. Okay, day before the funeral. Okay, all the traditional processes were done, the cleansing before, and all of those things. You know, I did that as well, reluctantly so. I went and got it done with. I came back and so on, and now the day of the funeral. things progressed. All the nitty-gritties and formalities were done with. Hey, can I reveal something that has been a secret? Well, I think to the broader public it has been a secret. I didn't agree. I refused to view my mother's body. It's something I haven't come to terms with. You know, anyone for that matter. Whenever I'm at a funeral, whether family or whatnot, I just can't bring myself to view a corpse. Guys, no. For me, I don't know. Maybe things might change, but no. However, I highly regard and I respect um, uh, the deceased. I do, guys. Trust me, I do. With the new realizations, I'll get to that point. Though. Okay, the funeral came. We had clothes. My younger brother, well, he was a fashionista, so he picked out the clothes. I went with him, picked out clothes in town, and then we came back. We did that. Funeral started. Hey guys, do you know what happened during the funeral? So, because we anticipated that there would be a lot of people attending, we went and got the nearby hall, a hall at one of the nearby schools. We were given access to it and we held it there. It went smoothly, and then my friends came the day before, varsity friends, and they paid their respects and they left. And one of them, who was a pastor by then, Promise Shabolwa, he delivered a heartwarming sermon in support of my grieving. And now, at the, when we got to the gravesite and everything was happening, there's sing, when people harmonize so nicely. Oh, they sang so lovely, guys. And now the pastor was done, or was in between his sermon, and the casket was now going dropping. Yeah, guys, as they were singing, the memories came flashing. They came flashing, flooding like a serious wave crashing against some rocks. Yeah, guys, they killed me as well. Yo, they were singing so lovely. Don't wanna lie. At that time, I felt like I was in heaven. I cried. I cried. Like serious weeping. That, and I didn't even plan for this to happen. I just felt myself crying uncontrollably and heavily so. Left the populated area by the graveside, and I just went aside by myself. My father was there, serious, talking to other people. To me, it felt as if people around me were faking it. It felt so because no one was in there like serious. You know, I broke down. Yo, I broke down. I cried. I cried heavily. But with that process came a much needed realization that I released. I felt some relief because that's when I released my mother. That's when I released my mother. Now, remember, everyone was saying that I hated my mother, that I don't like my mother. Well, that's not the case. I loved my mother. I adored my mother, but I didn't like what she had become. There's a difference. You love your parent, but you don't like their ways, like my father. I love him, but I don't like his despicable ways, right? Okay, so I cried and whatever. Everyone was looking at me, guys, like uncontrollably. Everyone was now focusing on me. Yo, Everyone was there, present there, can tell you. They saw me. Yo. Well, I think that was my way of paying my last respects to my mother. Oh, I loved her so much, guys. Yo, 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 yo. Yo, you know when she would get happy and be in a jolly mood, bed tipsy nyana, we knew she would just go nyawang nyawang. The family gatherings, she would dance. You play Rebecca Malope, she would dance. Yo, she would dance, I'm telling you. Put the speaker outside, she would dance. My mother, like this thing of entertainment and so on, no. It's because of her. Trust you me. She could make me laugh. Yeah, I know. She knew me very well. You know? You just say something out of nowhere. You ask yourself, but this person, then you laugh. Yo, she was there. She was the one. She cared for us deeply at Dononala, and equally so. She didn't discriminate against any of us. She loved us equally. Even when as a child, foolishly, you would be asking your mother, but do you like me more? Because I used to save up my lunch money and give it to her. Imagine the entire week and then give it to my mother. Then she would say, oh, thank you, thank you. We would be happy and just have a chat. And then I would just, blackmail her. You love me more, ne? Yeah, you love me more, or you love me the most. Then she'd be like, you are all my kids. I love you equally in Tandamufan. I'd be disappointed at the time, but now I've come to realize that, that was very big and great of her. Okay, so yeah, we went back to our family house. That's when I saw that, there's a lot of people here. There was a lot of people. I don't want to lie. Others came as far as Val, her birthplace. There were a lot of people. Hey, bekugcwele laphaya. Oh, yeah, and yeah, the day came to an end, and then a lot of bad things happened thereafter. Okay, some of the family members from my mother's side started helping me out here and there, and after well, my aunts, those people, guys, they proved from that point onwards that my suspicions were they were also in this. They were also in this, and my suspicions are very heavy. They were also in this because they never showed any emotion. Guys, your sister. Hi, guys, no. I mean, I felt it, even if they didn't feel as much as I did. But one of them, Rosina, even faked crying. She was mocking me when I came back. I just relaxed. I kept calm about it. I've never told her that, you know what, I noticed. I noticed a lot of things. I notice things and I keep quiet. That's one thing about me. But trust me, when I point it out to you, it will not be a lovely scene. So yeah, my sisters, my aunts, acted very very strange. They were hi man, it was like they're disinterested, just there for the formality, or because everyone would say, would be asking, but where's his sisters? Blah blah blah. So it was sort of like they did it out of, not out of sisterly love, but as a responsibility. That yeah, it's fine, sister. So everyone would be talking about us. That we went there. Let's go. Let's show support. But yeah, their priorities were misplaced. As is, even now, it still is that way. And then our neighbors, yo. At this time, that's when they started mocking us. Slowly though, slowly, ne? Okay. The World Cup gig ended, and in October, I joined Nedbank Personal Loans. And then, yeah, my mother, guys, her death, by the way, she was killed by Ngobeni. She was killed at, or shot at close range by Ngobeni. So what happened is he went to her place of residence where she was renting with a new boyfriend back then, and he knocked on the door and basically shot her close range, point blank. So according to the police report and the pictures I saw, guys, it was bad. It was bad. The investigating officer was even killed. Of that case, he was killed. Was murdered. You know, my mother was also murdered. Imagine. Ngobeni got off scot-free, charges were dropped. Well, no surprises there. My father went to the cases with us, he was just showing face. But he was also behind Ngobeni not being charged, because obviously they were in this together, right? This stuff is privileged information. It's not information that is freely or openly discussed out there. This is privileged information. However, I want it to be for public consumption. You know why? Because a lot of injustices have been done, a lot of lives have been done, have been lost in the process. People's lives, like myself, have been affected very, very negatively. People who have died, including my child as well. More on that later though. Okay, so later that year in December 2010, my younger brother, Sihle, was attacked and he lost one of his eyes. So he's now partially impaired, right? Yeah, you know, when my brother was in hospital, my father still worked at the same hospital, Baragwanath. He never visited him. Imagine your son and you don't visit him. And he was aware that he was admitted there. We went there we went in there every day. There was a time when the ward didn't want to allow us in because I worked late shifts, so from 4 until 9. And I think visiting hours were 3 o'clock. So I went to him with a fresh clothes every day so that he could take a bath and then change into them and just have a chat with him, just motivate him and get him to bounce back emotionally and mentally, because I think there he was shattered. He was shattered, guys. Whoa! Seeing your younger brother, ne? When I got there, I received a call. in December 2010. I was in Val. The call said from my aunt, the call said, sorry guys, it's now 12:45. The call said, Bafana, unikiwe ufoni, athi usihle udutshuliwe. So she was saying to me, Bafana, I just received a call from Unikiwe. She says, your younger brother Sihle has been shot at in the head. I was like, what? Yo. I had to be there, as in like now. I went to, so I was at another relative's place. So I was quickly rushed to my grandparents' place in Bupilong, and from there the entire family left and came this side. Came to the house, took some stuff of his, went to the hospital. When we got there, yo, guys, yo, horror movie, horror. My brother's hand was cut. You could see his wrist from inside, like his head had serious wounds there, stab wounds all around his chest and back, upper back. Yo, guys. His eye, his one eye, like out. It was still there, but you could see that these attackers basically focused on the eye and now wanted to cut off his hand, thereby killing him. So they couldn't do that because they were interfered by some local guy from the hood, of which I later went and thanked upon being made aware that he's the one who actually fought them off. And then, yeah, I went and thanked him. Like, honestly, I thank him for saving my brother. I don't know how I would have received that. Had my brother passed away, guys, bengizokhala, like bengizoba ngenye indlela. Yazi umamami ngiyengakhubazeka emoyeni, yathi mekufika uSihle, hayi, if uye washona uSihle lapha, guys, bengeke ngikhona. Bengeke ngikhona, but well, it was gonna be too much for me in such a short space of time. Then, all right, that then passed. But well, the fact that my father didn't visit my brother, and when we received or encountered challenges from the hospital staff, I went to him to request assistance. He just looked at me and said, I think he was just behaving strange, man. He was like, no, let's go together, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, but this one. And he didn't even have a sense of urgency or showing any compassion or consideration for us. Yeah, guys. Yeah. Some people. And then at Nedbank, when I was still working there was some guy called Hafiz, one of the team leaders. Yo. He used to ill-treat me. Yeah, didn't know why. Until now, I know. And then obviously it's this bad omen, or this being bewitched. So the way in which this thing works is it affects people around me and possesses them into working and persuades them through acts of intimidation. And force to ensure that they execute as per their desires, right? And then Nigi, where, yeah, well, we know she was close with my mother. However, after my mother's passing, she was just a wild card. Wild card to the core. They were close with Usihle. Yes. So moving on to 2011. 2011 started when I was still at Nedbank. So January I left Nedbank for the Kuyasa Banksita Kuyasa learnership. It placed me at African Bank call center, customer service, and yeah, I was there for a year until January 2012. So I did 6 months within the call center. Because I'm a rebel, I told them no, but you said I am a graduate, so you need to, and promised us that we'd get management, would be trained in management roles. So what's happening here? Why am I sitting in a call center? And then they moved us to another department. It was still operations, guys, but at least it was better than call center. They moved us to a tracing department. They called it the main building, so we were moved to that building. And then yeah, my father basically messed up my younger sister's lobola negotiations. My father did that. He made sure it doesn't happen. And then during the Kuyasa learnership, I started noticing people acting strange. Well, it started around Nedbank and continued. People acting strange around me, almost as if they knew so much about me, but we just met, and we are on. We're not even that close. We're just on this learnership. So what do they know? And it seemed like they could predict that I was now coming, and what I was thinking, blah blah blah. So yeah, it went on, and then collections, same thing at African Bank, the call center, same thing, and tracing, same thing, guys. Even the then CEO, Leon Kirkinis, picked up on this. Imagine an entire CEO now being a part of this. Sure. Okay. Okay. 2012, I got a job at African Bank Treasury. Yeah, a very, very challenging environment in one of the highest offices there. I started experiencing a loss of my eyesight. My eyesight would just go blurry out of nowhere, which is why I went and got glasses. I'm wearing prescription glasses now and then, but my eyesight is still perfect. Yes, my father did that. My father did that, guys. So I would have those episodes now and then in front of the screen. So I just thought, you know what, let me just get glasses once. And he made sure whenever I went and did eye test, those guys would tell me, your left eye has lost vision, maybe 20% or blah blah blah, whatever. I am, trust you me, I'm gesond, I'm perfect. And then the start of extremely unpleasant thoughts, guys. You know what happened? I had a very disturbing episode when I was sitting at the office, African Bank Treasury. There was an elderly lady who sat close to me. So I had one day, out of nowhere, I just experienced thoughts of lust for her. You know, me and her banging and so on. Hey guys, hey, I didn't believe this. I had to step out of the office and go just calm myself down. Try and figure out exactly what's happening here. But I didn't even understand. Wherever I walked, people were like looking at me funny. People were saying funny things at me and embarrassing stuff. I was wondering, how do people know? Like they would even talk about confidential stuff, and I would be surprised of all that. Say, but what's happening here? Hey guys, my father worked this thing out. Huh? My father and whoever is working with, and now it's very funny because the guy he took me to his inyanga or traditional or witch doctor, right? He said he started working with my father, or he knows my father from a long time ago. Um, they've known each other for a very long time now. So if he says that, read between the lines, guys. Read between the lines. To me, my mind just went one place or to one conclusion to say he's the one who was responsible for my mother's death, right? Or if he was not the only one, he was part of it, and or he knew about it, was involved. My father doesn't know anything about these rituals, but this guy, the witch doctor, trust me, he knows. He was the one doing all this. So, yeah, things happen out there, eh? Things happen. And now Kensani is no longer staying this side. After my mother's death, Kensani left, guys. Around my mother's death, somewhere there, Kensani left. She no longer stays this in Soweto. She's now in Venda at um, husband's place of birth. Imagine, imagine that, hey? But yeah, things happen out there. So I will get on. I won't say a lot of things now. I will leave it for a later period when I think that one of the last episodes that I will do, I will discuss a lot of significant points and then draw sort of like conclusions to say this, that, this, that. So I'll take from different periods and different events that transpired to arrive to logical conclusions so that you can connect the dots and see as to how all of this was done so as to also disguise people's involvement, because I didn't know that my father was chief of this. But hey, yeah, life has a funny way of bringing it out of someone. You know what happens in the dark, eventually it will come out in the open. So thank you so much for your time, guys. I've been making you guys aware that I'm going through a rough patch, obviously, because my father bewitched me and ensured that they cast a spell that ensures that my social relations, my clients and friends, my finances, as well as my emotions as well, they are disrupted. So I'm not getting any money, though I'm working so hard. Things are not going my way. He's mocking me. He's playing games now. But I'm more on that on the later episodes. Don't worry. However, yay! Serious progress has been made. This matter is, in principle, it's done. It's done. However, I'll get into it and break it down nicely so that you understand. Thank you so much for your time, guys. I hope you have a lovely one. Goodbye for now.